you have a wonderful question that a Barbanel asked also many, many years ago. And the Chachamim, the Tosfot, the Baalei Tosfot, over 1,000 years ago asked the same question. You're saying it's a marriage. You're saying Hashem says, we got married on this day. In Shavuot, we got married. Why? I gave you the Torah. You said, I do. Yishtabach Shemo Lahad. But technically, the Baalei Tosfot says, wait a minute, hold on a second. What kind of I do is this? It wasn't such a wedding. Why? The groom showed up with a gun in his hand and said, would you marry me? What kind of marriage is this? You put the mountain on top of us in the air like a chuppah. The mountain was on top of Am Yisrael. Mount Sinai was in the air, floating in the air, covering Am Yisrael. Millions of people were covered by this mountain. And Hashem says, this is our wedding day. You accept the Torah. This is our wedding day. You say, I do. You accept the Torah. Na'aseh v'nishma. Baruch Hashem. We continue. If not, this will just simply be your burial ground. I'll just drop the mountain and done. Why? Because I made a deal. When I created the world, I made a deal that the whole world's purpose is to fulfill my rules, to fulfill the Torah. And I made a deal with the heaven and the earth as witnesses that if you accept the Torah when I give it to you, the world will continue because the world will be able to fulfill its purpose. If you do not accept it, then the world cannot fulfill its purpose, and therefore there's no point to the world. There's no point for us to exist just to exist. For you, for me, for anybody in the world to just come to the world in order to eat, drink, which in essence makes us no different than a blender. You grind food and then it comes out of you. Blender, so why not Hashem just make blenders? Or if it's to reproduce, why don't you just make termites? Termites reproduce much faster with less pain than us. If it's what? If it's to work, Hashem doesn't need us to work. He doesn't get our money. Liya kesef v'liya zahav. Meaning, what purpose do we have in the world if it's not to fulfill the Torah? You cannot tell me it's to work and to make money because Hashem doesn't take our money. And if it is for money, then how come there's so many poor people? So you tell me that the Creator created a bunch of people that cannot fulfill their purpose? Then why did He create them? So, of course, the purpose has to be to fulfill the rules, to fulfill the Torah, to fulfill the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem. So that's why the Abarbanel and the Tosfot say that, yes, even though this put us in a certain way where we were forced into marriage, this is not a forced marriage like we think, but rather this is just a simple understanding of who runs the world and how He runs it. Meaning, it's not just Am Yisrael that exists in the world. There are other nations in the world. There are almost 8 billion people in the world today. There are billions and billions of creatures. Now Hashem is not an irresponsible teenager God. That's what the Abarbanel says. What do you think? He's some irresponsible God that He's going to leave all of creation in the hands of a bunch of stubborn people? No, He needed to tell them, listen, you can accept the Torah out of your free will. You can accept it. You can say yes. You could also say no. But I'm just letting you know, if you say no, you and everybody else dies. I'm not forcing you to say yes. You can say no. But I'm just letting you know, if you say no, I'm going to kill you. Why? Because there's no point. You only exist because I allow you to exist. If you do not want this partnership to continue, no problem. You can say no. But I'm going to kill you then, because then I don't need you. Because you don't do anything for me. If you don't do anything for me, then for what? What do I need you for? So, it's not that Hashem forced us into the marriage, but rather forced us to understand that He cannot allow us to simply live a life with no consequences, because whatever we do affects the rest of creation. If we would have said no, it's not, let's say we were all suicidal, and we said no, He also wanted to let us know, listen, it's not just you. Let's say you're depressed and you want to kill yourself, fine. But you want to kill your family too? You want to kill your cousin? You want to kill this innocent people that live in some country? No, why? They didn't do anything to you. So I'm just letting you know, Hashem said, that if you say no, I'm not only killing you, I'm killing everybody. Because the whole world does not have an ability to fulfill its purpose, because the whole world can only fulfill its purpose by you fulfilling your purpose. Yes, that was the conversation we had at Mount Sinai. Now, the beautiful thing about the Torah is that when Hashem spoke to us initially, we were not able to contain this holiness of his voice. So when he said the first commandment, the holiness of his voice was so terrifying that everybody died. Everyone died. Hashem revived us, brought back the dead. It's 2 times. Then he said the second commandment. Everybody died again. And then he brought up the second time. And before he said the third commandment, you see a pasuk in the Torah, Am Yisrael screams to Moshe Rabbeinu, you go talk to him, we will do, and then we'll listen. Na'aseh v'nishma. Why do they say Na'aseh v'nishma? Because if he continues to talk, we will die. So Moshe says, no, don't fear. He's just scaring you so you don't sin. He's not trying to kill you. He obviously revived you from the dead. But he's scaring you to make sure that you know that he means business, that he's God. So, but they obviously were not able to feel the pain of death once again. And they said, Moshe, you go continue listening to the rest of the commandments, the rest of the laws, and you let us know. We'll just do whatever he says. Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do, and then we'll hear it. So, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu went to Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights. He listened to the Torah. He went, his body was still on this earth. His soul went up to heaven. He learned the Torah with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we already agreed to listen to it at that moment. Problem is that, our agreement wasn't fulfilled right away. Because as soon as he left, already the Yetzer Hara started having fun by having the Amalek, having the Erev Rav, the fake converts from Egypt, start enticing Am Yisrael to sin. And eventually, since Am Yisrael did not rebuke them, it opened up another door for the Yetzer Hara to fool them. So he fooled Am Yisrael to thinking that Moshe Rabbeinu died. Because he said he'll be there for 40 days and 40 nights, and they miscalculated by 6 hours. They thought that he's going to come back 6 hours earlier, and when he didn't come back 6 hours earlier, they thought that he died. They had doubts. So the Yetzer Hara actually showed him, the Midrash says, the Yetzer Hara showed him like a movie of the angels carrying a body. And he said, oh, that's the body of Moshe Rabbeinu. So they thought that Moshe died. So then they went to her, and they said to him that we want somebody to connect us to God. We need some type of place of sanctity. So create something for us. Because until now, we had Moshe Rabbeinu. Now he doesn't exist. They thought they needed a middleman. He said no, so they killed him. So then they went to Aaron and said, you have to create something for us. You have to make something for us. And Aaron knew that Moshe didn't die, and he also knew that if he says no, they'll kill him also. The problem is that even though he was willing to die, especially for the sake of Hashem, he knew that he's going to be the Kohen. And the only way that the Jewish people could ever be purified is through a Kohen. And if he died, that means that that sin and that impurity of the nation can never be taken away. Which means that he cannot allow himself to die. So what he tried to do is buy time. He said, okay, fine, you know what? I'll do something for you. Just give me your most valuable possessions. Give me all your gold. Usually when you ask people for a bunch of money, they run away. But to his surprise, all of the men, not the women, all of the men started taking off the jewelry on them. The women didn't give their jewelry, but the men were so influenced by the Yetzer Hara, they started taking off the jewelry off of their bodies, off of their ears, off of their arms and everything, right on the spot, throw it into the fire. But Aaron still was not worried because he knew that it takes a while for gold to melt, a very, very hot fire, and by then Moshe Rabbeinu would come. What he wasn't expecting was that there was a young kid by the name of Micha that had something that belonged to Moshe Rabbeinu. He had a mateh. He had a small piece of metal that had the name of God on it on one side, and on the other side had a verse that said, Aleh Shor Aleh, rise, bull, rise. Where did he get this from? So the Midrash Me'am Loeh says that when Moshe Rabbeinu, after the 10 plagues, and it was time to free Am Yisrael from Egypt, he wanted to fulfill the promise that the tribes made to Yosef. Yosef made his brothers promise him that when they or their descendants leave Egypt, they would take his bones out of Egypt and bring it to Eretz Yisrael. So there was a promise. So Moshe wanted to fulfill that promise. But he didn't know where Yosef was buried. So he had to find somebody that knew where Yosef was buried. The only one that knew is someone that was alive at that moment. And there was a woman by the name of Serach. Serach, the daughter of Asher. Serach, the niece of Asher, the brother of Yosef. She got a special blessing from Yaakov Avinu that she lived hundreds and hundreds of years. And she was the only one that was alive at the time of Yosef, and she knew where Yosef was buried. And she told them that the Egyptians turned Yosef into a idol of some kind, and they buried him because he gave them so much wealth and so on. They hid his body inside the Nile River. So she told Moshe Rabbeinu that his body's in the Nile River, but since Moshe Rabbeinu did not have scuba diving equipment, he used a different equipment. What did he do? He went to the Nile River. He wrote Hashem's name on a piece of metal. He wrote the verse that symbolized, there was a verse that symbolized Yosef. Yosef, each one of the tribes had a symbol. For example, Yehudah had a symbol of a lion. The tribe of Yehudah, a symbol of a lion. The tribe of Yosef had a symbol of a bull. So he wrote on it, "Rise, bull, rise." And he threw the mateh into the water by saying, Yosef, you're here. Either you bring yourself, the neshama, your neshama, bring yourself out of the water, or I'm leaving you here. I'm trying to fulfill the promise, but I can't bring you physically. So either bring yourself out of the water, or I'm leaving. You're staying here. So he threw this mateh that had Hashem's holy name on it, and the tomb literally came out of the ground, and Moshe Rabbeinu carried the tomb. Now, what Moshe Rabbeinu did not know was that this little boy that he saved his life, was following him and was hiding in the bushes. And while he was taking care of the tomb, this boy jumped into the water and took that piece of metal and hid it. So when everybody left Egypt and went into the desert,
It's kind of clumsiness. When you read Hashem's name, it's something you should be serious.
before I call Moshe Rabbeinu clumsy, I'd be careful.
I mean, everything's meant to be, but...
Before I call Moshe Rabbeinu clumsy, I'd be careful. So now, Moshe Rabbeinu b'kedushato took Am Yisrael out of Egypt. The little boy stole the mateh and went with everybody else. Now, when Moshe Rabbeinu was in Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights, and the people were going crazy during those 6 hours, everybody threw their gold into the fire. The little boy didn't have gold. All he had is this little piece of metal that he didn't really know what it has, what it doesn't have. All he knew is that this belonged to Moshe Rabbeinu, and this was valuable to him, so he also threw it into the fire. He didn't know that this is something holy, that this is something that could do something. He just simply threw it into the fire. But since it had Hashem's name on it, it did what Hashem's name does, which is create stuff. What did the mateh say? What did the piece of metal say? Rise, bull, rise. What did the Torah say came out of the fire? A bull. A bull came out of the fire, and the Gemara says the bull was speaking, saying, I am the God that took you out of Egypt. So when they worshipped the idol, they worshipped the golden calf, they weren't worshipping a Buddha statue that doesn't move. A golden calf came out from nothing. No one made it. It was made by the holy name. The golden calf came out and it was speaking. That's why they thought it was something significant. There weren't a bunch of morons that bought a statue for $15 and started praying to it. The thing was speaking. So they thought it was something significant, and therefore they sinned.